Well, let's hear now from the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, who is with us this morning. A very good morning to you, Mr. Streeting. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
I know one of the things you're going to mention today is you want to get people better and get them into work, and that you've got a list of hospital trusts that you want to focus on. Is Nottingham one of them?
We're looking really carefully at areas of high levels of economic unemployment where people are off work, off sick. And we want to make sure we get people back to work by cutting waiting lists, delivering those 40,000 more appointments, and making sure those crack teams go into those areas with the highest levels of economic unemployment.
Yeah,
and I'll
you
be
said
working
there's
with
20,
the work and pensions.
there's 20 hospital trusts. Is Nottingham one of them? Do you know that yet?
We are focusing on the areas with the highest levels of need, and we are making sure that as we're prioritising, that we are starting with those. If
you don't know the answer, it's okay. We could just say we haven't figured it out yet, but we know that this is the aim. I'm just interested to know if you've started to earmark the places, if this is something that here in Nottinghamshire, we should be looking forward to. But if it's a bit early on in the day, then that's all right.
Well, I mean, I think I'm just looking down my list. Doncaster and Bassett Law Teaching Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust nearby will be on that list. We've started with the first 20 where we've got the highest levels of economic unemployment, where people are off sick, off work, and we want to get them back to health.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we'll wait and see if Nottingham appears at some stage, although if you've got the list in front of you, it probably indicates that it doesn't at this stage or not. I'm interested in just asking you a quick question about something to do with the buildings at Nottingham's hospitals. The rebuilding of the hospitals is under review. Does that mean it's going to be delayed even further? Does that mean it's not going to happen? I think anybody who's been to the hospitals recently knows that they are a bit tatty and, they do need some work.
Look, I know the QMC and Nottingham City Hospital are not in a good state. That's why they found themselves in that programme initially. But when I came into office as the new health secretary, I was confronted with the fact that the timetables for the programme were unrealistic and the money for it ran out in March. And I just said to myself, and I've said to the country since, we're not going to make up false timetables and give people false promises. We've got to come up with a credible timetable and a funded plan for those projects. We are reviewing that actively now, and I know how strongly communities will feel about the need for investment. I'm asking people to give us time just to get under the bonnet of the programme, roll our sleeves up, look at what we can do at what timetable to make sure that people have not just the great care they need, but great care in great settings that they need to.
Yeah, because you look at it and you look at the building itself and you see the figures, and the two of them currently need £437 million in repairs. £437 million in repairs. It's the third highest nationally. And now you're saying actually we're reviewing whether it's going to be rebuilding. Surely that's costing you enough anyway.
Well, I hear the frustration in your voice, and believe me, I absolutely feel it in the pits of my stomach too. We've got a 14-year maintenance backlog that's built up, and one of my frustrations is that on this and on so many other issues, we pay a heavier price for failure. That's why I've got to come forward with a realistic timetable, a funded plan that makes best use of taxpayers' money. Of course, we've got a challenging situation in the public finances at the moment, but I've got a responsibility to make sure that we are not just investing in the NHS, but reforming it so it's back on its feet and fit for the future.
Yeah, and how can you reform it if the hospitals are saying that they're in this state of disrepair? They're probably unlikely to achieve what they want to achieve because the buildings are in a state, and yet you want reform and you want waiting lists to go down, and you want people to be happy when they go to work, the nurses and the doctors, and yet the buildings are just under review.
Well, there are two things that give me sources of confidence and hope about the future. The first is we've been here before as a country. Yes, the crisis in the NHS today is the worst in its history, but the last Labour government delivered the shortest waiting times and the highest patient satisfaction in history. We did it before, and we will do it again with a programme of investment and reform. And the other thing that gives me great hope is that there are people in the NHS today who are showing us what that brighter future looks like. Whether it's the clinicians who are showing us new ways of working to bust the backlog faster, which is why today in my conference speech I'll be announcing sending those teams into hospitals to help them bust their backlog faster using modern ways of working, but also people using new treatments, new technologies. The challenge is that those outstanding areas of practice are often the exceptional practice. I've got to take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS. And as I sometimes complain, the NHS has got more pilots than the RAF. If all I did was to adopt and roll out things that are proven to work in some parts of the NHS, to the whole of the NHS, we'll have done a hell of a lot of good.
Okay.